No, this is not clickbait and your eyes are not deceiving you. This is a fully playable version of Maria, modded into the original PlayStation version of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And as someone who has been playing this game pretty much my whole life, I cannot get over how freaking cool this is. But some of you watching might be unimpressed or thinking to yourself, what's all the hype about? Hasn't Maria always been playable? Or maybe some of you are unaware of how incredibly difficult it has been to mod Symphony of the Night at all, let alone get a new character working. Or maybe you are more interested in knowing more about how the character works and what she's capable of. Or maybe you don't care about any of this and you just want to know how to get this mod for yourself. Well, this video aims to answer all those questions and more as I break down everything about this new character and the implications of how this will impact the future of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And it's also an excuse for me to showcase a highly technical speedrun for the character. But first, let's take a trip down memory lane so I can explain the weird and troubled history for playing as Maria in Symphony of the Night. As a kid, I remember scouring online forums looking for cheat codes and Easter eggs in all my favorite video games. And in that search, I found name codes for Symphony of the Night that would unlock new ways of playing the game. I still remember the first time that I inputted Richter as my file name, letting me play as Richter instead of the normal protagonist, Alucard. And after seeing this, I always wondered if a Maria mode was somehow hidden in the game too. But sadly, no. And my childhood self would have to wait 10 long years before getting a chance to play as Maria, as a playable version of this character would not be available for us in the West until the game was re-released for the Dracula X Chronicles version in 2007. And this is where a lot of the confusion comes from as to whether or not Maria has ever been playable in Symphony of the Night, because there are way too many versions of this damn game and most people are unaware of all the differences between them. The TLDR is, while there are over a dozen versions of the game, we can simplify those into 3 types of releases that have major content and gameplay differences. The original PlayStation release in 1997, the Sega Saturn release 1 year later in 1998, and the Dracula X Chronicles release in 2007 for the PSP. Any other version of the game is likely based off of one of those 3 versions and behaves pretty much the same in most circumstances. Just please, for the love of God, ignore the Game.com version. And when porting this game from the original PlayStation to the Saturn and to the PSP, both times the developers decided to add a playable version of Maria into the game. But for whatever reason, they decided to make 2 completely different characters. I mean, they're both meant to be playable versions of Maria from the game's story, but they are completely different in how they look, and especially how they play. I won't go super in-depth here about all the gameplay differences between the 2 versions of Maria, as this video will primarily be focusing on the Dracula X Chronicles version of the character. This will make sense soon, I promise. But if you're interested in how the Saturn version of the character works, I do have a full breakdown video of the character, as well as how speedrunners use her to completely break the Saturn version of the game, linked in the description. So to recap, the original version of the game on PlayStation never had a playable Maria. The Saturn release had their own version of Maria made specifically for that game, and then when the game was re-released for the Dracula X Chronicles version, they again made a different version of Maria. But now, in the year 2025, us OG PlayStation enthusiasts finally get our chance to play this elusive character for ourselves. And this amazing achievement is the result of a lot of hard work by Zanemo, as well as everybody working on the SotN's Decomp Project. This project aims to poke and prod into the inner workings of the game to decompile the original source code. And even though this project isn't even 100% complete yet, we are already seeing amazing results, both in our ability to understand how the game works, and more excitingly, how to modify the game. And this is the part I cannot stress enough. Symphony of the Night is a game that absolutely hates to be modified in any way. The game itself is held together by the coding equivalent of glue and popsicle sticks. So many processes in the game are truly a hacky mess when peering under the hood. And for most people playing the game, all this haphazard code should never really interfere with the gameplay experience. Should. But for those looking to modify the game, like adding new features, new castle layouts, or even additional characters, the game's hacky structure makes working with it a real struggle. That is on top of the fact that this game was made for the PlayStation, a CD-based console. And generally speaking, CD-based games are much harder to create hacks for. There are technical reasons for why this is, and my stinky monkey brain can't really comprehend them, so I'll link some resources down below if you want to read more. So that's where Symphony of the Night ROM hacking stood for a very long time, stuck being able to do some things things, but ultimately very limited in terms of really changing up the game. That is until not that long ago when Xanamo messaged me asking if I'd be interested in testing out his build of Maria, playable on the original PlayStation version. I of course said, yes, please, yes, and to my surprise, this computer wizard actually did it. And not only is this truly amazing, as this is the first time a new character with their own sprites, animations, and functions has ever been added to the game, but this opens the door to all sorts of new types of hacks in the future. This could be the beginning of a new age of custom SotN hacks that I personally can't wait to see. And I won't spoil Xanamo's next project, but I will say Maria isn't the only character he's been working on porting into the game. And if you, watching this, are interested in playing this hack for yourself or want to follow what's going on with the Decomp Project, I will link the GitHub page in the description for everyone to check out. Everything is completely open source, meaning anyone can use or contribute to the project itself. And I will showcase how to get this hack up and running later on in the video, but for now, let's actually talk about Maria herself and how she plays in this version of the game. As some of you may have guessed, this playable version of Maria is not based on her Sega Saturn counterpart, but instead is a near one-to-one port of her PSP version. There are a few reasons as to why the Dracula X Chronicles version of the character was ported and not the Sega Saturn version, but the funniest reason is the fact that the Saturn version of the game uses a completely different screen resolution, meaning all of the assets, sprites, and animations for the character would need to be redone, as they would not fit properly on the screen when ported over to the PlayStation version. This doesn't mean we won't see a port of the Saturn version of Maria at some point, but for now, we have this version instead. And while she's mostly the same as her appearance in the Dracula X Chronicles version, there is one major difference that has big implications for anyone wanting to play this character for themselves. But we'll discuss that in a little bit. First, let's go over the basics of how the character functions so you can get an idea of what it's like to play as Maria in Symphony of the Night. I will say, if you're interested in trying this character for yourself, just be prepared for a pretty serious challenge. First off, she's a bit of a, well, I would say glass cannon, but really, she's just made of glass. She has the same health and defense stats as Richter, who is well known for his bad habit of exploding into bloody mist. And Maria has all of those downsides with pretty much none of the upsides of Richter's insanely powerful kit. She shares similar movement options with horizontal dashes, slides, high jumps, and even her own unique moves like her double jump and dive kick. But sadly, none of her moves have nearly the same damage potential as Richter, and lack any sort of invincibility frames. This makes a playthrough with this character far more stressful and punishing, as you have pretty much no way to get past the big scary enemies of the game other than fighting them for yourself, or else you risk dying a swift and painful death. And the way Maria does fight these characters is quite interesting, even if she's lacking in the damage department. Her basic attacks have her throwing out birds as a projectile. This attack sadly is pretty pitiful, as it doesn't even have enough damage to clear basic skeletons without requiring multiple hits. She does also have her slide, her tackle, and her dive kick that can all technically do damage, but these attacks are situational at best. So the real star of the show are her sub-weapon attacks, and their associated item crashes. These sub-weapons can drop from candles and can be used for the cost of a few hearts. But unlike Richter, who shares similar abilities, Maria's sub-weapons are unique to her, with 5 different options to choose from. One for each of her 4 animal companions, and one for her guardian knuckle attack. The Cardinal sub-weapon has Maria sprout wings of fire that lock her in place and can do a half-decent job of racking up damage. The Cat sub-weapon has Maria throw an unruly cat that bounces around and has the chance to hit enemies multiple times. The Turtle sub-weapon spawns a shield that blocks projectiles for about 3 seconds. Cool. The Dragon sub-weapon spawns a dragon that flies across the screen while doing the most damage out of all the possible sub-weapon attacks. And lastly, there's the Doll sub-weapon that doesn't even have a normal attack, but instead is only usable for its item crash. By pressing triangle, Maria can spend extra hearts to get a powered-up attack from each of her different sub-weapons. And for the Doll sub-weapon, this attack brings forth a Guardian version of Maria, as she strikes with her fists a few times. The other sub-weapons also have interesting item crashes worth discussing here. The Cardinal item crash spawns a large phoenix that spams targeting projectiles. In the grand scheme of things, this one's actually pretty good, and in the PSP version, it's used very often in the speedruns for Maria. I will touch on why we don't use it for the new PlayStation version speedrun, but that'll be later. The Cat item crash will summon a tiger that will attack at the same time as Maria. Side note about this item crash, while it looks really cool, it ends up being pretty much useless because for whatever reason, the game doesn't let both the bird hitboxes and the tiger slash hitboxes hit the enemy at the same time. This is exactly how it works on the PSP version too, by the way. This means most of the time, the bird's hitbox will take over, meaning the tiger slashes do no extra damage at all. Trust me, I wanted this item crash to be good so bad because, I mean, look at it. It's so cool, but just, damn, man, it sucks. Anyways, the turtle item crash summons a big old turtle that creates a healing aura on the screen that does very little damage to enemies, but hey, at the very least, it's healing you, I guess. I don't know, this one's also pretty useless. And lastly, we have the dragon item crash, which summons a big dragon that flies across the screen and locks onto enemies, doing a decent amount of damage. But it costs 50 hearts total to cast, which Maria can only hold a total of 99 at a time, so it ends up being more costly than is worth most of the time. And I haven't brought up the heart costs for any of these item crashes because, spoiler alert, you'll never see me use them. I could see a world where the Phoenix attack is useful, but unfortunately, the one part of this character that didn't get ported over from the Dracula X Chronicles version was her ability to hold two different sub-weapons at the same time. This ability to toggle between two sub-weapons is actually really important for stacking damage on bosses with a combination of the Phoenix item crash and dragon sub-weapon. But since that's no longer an option, I found the best strategy for Maria is to just use the dragon sub-weapon by itself. And if for whatever reason you don't believe me, why don't I show you what I mean? Because this perfectly transitions me into the next segment of the video. As a longtime speedrunner myself, I thought what better way to showcase this new character than to develop a brand new route, practice it to the best I can, and perform the world record speedrun for this new playable character. And before we start, I just want to say this run was by far the hardest speedrun I've ever had to do in this game. The goal for the run is to start the game as Maria and make your way all the way to the center of the second castle so I can face off with the final boss, Shaft, and beat the game. Yeah, just like a Richter playthrough, unfortunately, we don't get the final fight with Dracula. But since Maria starts with all the movement options she needs to quickly dash through the game, you'll see me essentially perform the fastest option through each room as I make my way to the second castle, while defeating any of the enemies and bosses that get in my way. But now, I think it's time we talk specifics, so let's take a look at the world record run and how I was able to perform it. At the start of the run, you'll see me input Richter as my file name. This is because the mod completely replaces Richter in the game's files. Sadly, game limitations are a thing for ROM hacks to deal with, so I will say this hack shouldn't replace your normal way to play the game if you care about playing as Richter. Once I gain control of the character, we already meet our first roadblock for the run. The very first enemy of the game is this warg here, and Maria can't just squeeze past the guy without taking damage and losing time. So the fastest way I found to dispose of him is to use the Guardian Knuckle attack to kill him, so I can quickly dash through into the next room. I then take advantage of Maria's fast dashes to chain them over and over again mid-air to fly above these enemies in this hallway. Thankfully for me, the dash also has a few frames after it's completed that let me perform a mid-air jump. This can be done out of any dash and doesn't actually take up my double jump. The timing to perform this mid-air jump is pretty tight, so not only am I timing these dashes as quickly as I can, I also have to make sure to jump every so often as to maintain my height so I can keep dodging these enemies. And if I ever fail the jump timing, it could lead to me dropping directly on top of a dangerous enemy, leading to time loss or even death. Remember, Maria does not have a whole lot of defenses in this game. I then quickly dash through the next two rooms with no problem here before reaching the room where death normally takes away all of Alucard's starting equipment. Here, the fastest way through is to use Maria's owl friend to quickly lift her up through this room. Essentially, pressing down, up, and then jump summons the owl to fly up quickly. And if you actually hold the jump button, you do get to slowly float down, which can be useful for repositioning yourself mid-air. More uppercuts let us reach this switch, which lifts the rock out of the way. And funny enough, I did test to see if reloading the room after pressing the switch would be faster than waiting for this rock to move out of my way. And it turns out it's actually slower. I really did try my best here to test every possible idea I could come up with to try and save time on this run. I won't claim it's perfect or anything, but I'm really proud of what I was able to do here. But I will point out a few spots that could have been faster later on. Meanwhile, as I make my way to the alchemy lab, I should actually talk about another mechanic unique to Maria. Because of the way the developers programmed Maria's dash, they essentially reused the code from Richter's grounded dash, meaning that when dashing into these red doors, the game considers you in a grounded running state, where normally doors can be opened. This means we can actually dash through these doors if we time our dash properly, which skips this slow door opening animation. This saves about half a second on each of these red doors throughout the run. Now in the alchemy lab, we perform more dashes and owl jumps, and even snipe this red skeleton with the dove toss before dashing through. Fun fact, this is one of the few enemies in the game that actually dies to a single dove attack, and ironically enough, it's an enemy that technically can't be killed. Oh god, Maria's weak in this game. We then perform more sick movement through the alchemy lab while making our way towards the back entrance of the Royal Chapel, not without a few small movement mistakes. Come on, Maria, get your Freaking ass up there. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Here in the chapel, I have to very carefully maneuver above these enemies while making it through the stairway. And one small movement mistake is all it takes for me to land right on top of this spike ball, which would kill me instantly. Thank God that never happened to me during any of my run attempts. Oh my God, dude. Anyways, I make it to the next room, and then I end up trying to pass through this beautiful room at the top of the stairs. And this is where I want to mention that this run was performed on an actual PlayStation. Using original hardware left me vulnerable to all the different slowdowns and load time issues that come with the original game, so I got to experience all of that while grinding for this record. And I will say it definitely added to the difficulty of this run, because this room in particular had a bad habit of dropping frames and eating my jump inputs, landing me right on top of this scary spectral sword. But thankfully for me, this run right here made it through with no problems. And this isn't the only room in the game that can experience slowdowns, so I have to be very careful with my inputs going forward. I then ascend this bell tower room before being blocked by these skeleton halberds. I found the best and fastest way to get through this room was to combo a single dove throw into Maria's charging tackle. This tackle attack is much weaker than Richter's version and has no invincibility frames, but this combo does just enough damage to both clear the skeletons and move forward at the same time. I do this for each skeleton before making it to the second bell tower room, and here I precisely position myself to dash to the right and bait this crow into flying out of position. This gives me the space I need to finally ditch the doll sub-weapon and trade it in for my beloved dragon attack. And just in time too, as I enter the next hallway, I use the newly acquired dragon friend to clear the room so I can dash through and enter the first boss fight of the run. Hippogriff can be very annoying to fight if you go in without a plan, but I found this opening to be the most consistent way to get him to fly across the top of the screen, which lets me use the dragon sub-weapons to do a lot of damage. I unfortunately mess up the strat a little bit here and had to freestyle, but got lucky that Hippogriff's final attack had him charging flames while standing still on the ground, leading to no time loss overall. Oops. Okay, could have been worse. We got a little lucky with the pattern. I also want to point out that the best way to use the dragon sub-weapons on this boss is to keep the dragon inside of Hippogriff's hitbox as long as possible. The way I do this is by either walking or dashing away from the dragon to keep him on screen for longer. This is because the dragon's movement is affected by Maria's movement relative to the camera. If I move in the direction of the dragon moves faster. If I move away from the dragon, it moves slower. So any sort of strange movements you see me do on bosses is specifically there to help keep the dragon doing as much damage as possible. And now that Hippogriff's defeated, I move through to the next area of the game, the Castle Keep. Here, these Axe Knights are quite a problem, so I use a combo of a dragon attack plus one dove to clear them quickly, but not without this last one giving me quite an annoying parting gift. No, stop dropping that shit, man! These enemies have a rare chance, about 2%, to drop the axe sub-weapon. This would cause Maria to trade in her dragon friend for the cardinal instead, which will not work for this speedrun, and there's no other place for me to quickly replace it for another dragon. This means I'm forced to backtrack to pick my dragon back up again before moving on. An annoying time loss, but completely out of my control, unfortunately. I climb my way to the top of these broken stairs before getting to the teleporter pad that will take me to the second castle. And for whatever reason, the animation for starting this teleport takes quite a bit longer for Maria than any other character. So I guess while we're stuck here waiting, now would be a good time to say, hey, if you've been enjoying this video up to this point, please don't forget to subscribe. It's a free way that helps this video reach more people, and it genuinely helps me out a lot as I try and grow this channel. And I'm very grateful that there's so many of you out there that are willing to help support me so I can make content creation my full-time job. So thank you so much. Phew, thank God that's over. Anyways, now that everything's upside down, I can actually go for the one and only major glitch of the run, the reverse keep out of bounds. Here, by barely dropping into this hole in the floor, then immediately dashing to the left, you actually don't trigger the room transition, and instead get pushed into the bottom of the screen. If you then activate the room transition while out of bounds, this warps you down through the next few rooms, giving you access to the entirety of the reverse keep, while staying out of bounds. I do this, then quickly navigate to the top right-hand corner of the room, so I could reach the CD transition and load the reverse chapel. I ended up getting this trick pretty quickly on my second try, meaning there is some time save possible here, but not much. And this glitch is by no means necessary for the run, but it is much faster than trying to enter the chapel the normal way, especially considering these tombstone enemies are in the way and are very slow to get past. Anyways, now here in the chapel, we enter the part of the run where everything kills you. Pretty much any attack from most enemies will just straight up kill me in a single hit. So if I make any mistakes from here on out, or the game drops frames at a key moment, I'm probably just dead. Thankfully, this run, I perform tight jumps around these balloon pods and Black Panthers before entering the next boss room, versus Medusa. Here, I yet again attempt camera manipulation movements to keep the dragon damage up, all while taking time to duck and dodge her stone beam. I throw a few doves in for good measure, and Medusa goes down with no problem. Just like she normally does, right? Boss fight. This next room here is the scariest so far because, again, any mistake here and the run is over. This is probably the one place where Maria's slide attack is actually useful. I found that the slide will usually either attack the Panthers and kill them outright, or bait them into hugging the floor to get them out of the way. Sadly, there are some spacings that cause you to actually slide right into them, but thankfully I never made that mistake. Okay, this joke's getting a little old now.
That's crazy. So that's what I thought you're supposed to do, because the slide forces them to disappear, but I guess it was like frame perfect where he disappeared but his hitbox was still out. I don't know. That's annoying.
This run, I actually perform the movement through the last Black Panther hallway correctly and move on to the next scariest room in the game. I have to fly up this tower before being met with a whole gaggle of imps who want nothing more than to ruin my run. But if I get lucky and throw my doves at the right times while jumping through, I can actually push some of them out of my way, clearing a path towards the next area of the game, the Reverse Coliseum. Thankfully, I hadn't taken any other damage up to this point, so when these imps unfortunately got in my way, I didn't immediately die. But this did cost me some time, as I had to recover from hits done twice before dashing through. Okay, so now this is actually the scariest room in the game. The start of the Coliseum has me staring down not one, but two Minotaurs that block my path upward. And there does exist a strat where you perfectly space a dash to fly over the first guy, then quickly fly up into the next room before the second one moves forward and bonks you on the head with his axe. But I'll be honest with you guys here, at this point, I had spent nearly 10 hours over the course of 2 days trying to get this world record without being able to finish a single run. There are so many points where the run normally dies that at this point I said screw it. Instead of going for the slightly faster option, I took the baby way out and used my dragon friend to kill both of these Minotaurs before moving on. Then, after dodging these floating skulls, I have yet another room full of dangerous enemies waiting for me, this time with both Minotaurs and werewolves. Here I have no other choice but to clear out most of the enemies with the dragon before passing through. I did try to find any other fast method of getting through here, but nothing really worked. But now we finally have some good news. After clearing all these scary rooms, I am rewarded with 2 large heart pickups and a health max up. These items will help me stay locked and loaded for the next and final fight of the run versus Shaft. But first, I still am at risk of dying to some of these enemies left in the Coliseum, so I quickly make my way through before getting to the inverted Alrox's quarters. And now there's only one enemy left in the game that could possibly stop me from making it to the final boss, and that is this Asgul right here. So long as I don't mess up any of my movement, I should be fine.
Oh! The fuck? He tippy-toed his way into my fucking hitbox.
Just kidding. That was footage from a failed attempt. Here's what actually happened. And as I made my way to the central clock room, the nerves were really starting to kick in. Will this be yet another failed run attempt, or will this be it? Hours of practice and dedication all led to this moment before I grabbed my last heart of the run and entered the final elevator. Now, there's nothing standing between me and this world record run except the final boss. And where to begin with this guy? In my testing and routing phase for this game, I spent many hours testing strategies and practicing for this fight. And no matter what I came up with, there was one major problem that I had to overcome, that being Shaft's lightning attack. See, the way this boss works is that he'll move around the room pseudo-randomly, but will always choose the same 3 attacks in sequence. First, he will pick 2 balls at random to turn into flaming orbs that will track your position and create giant flame pillars. If he hits you with this attack, you can technically survive while at full health, but it can easily combo into itself, leading to an early death. This may be scary, but is technically dodgeable, so as long as I don't have any skill issues, I should be fine here. Next, he will choose 2 balls at random to start bouncing around the room like 2 DVD logos from hell. This attack, while chaotic, is again technically dodgeable if I stay locked in. But lastly, Shaft will stop in place and choose 2 balls at random again to become linked together in a giant full-screen chain lightning attack. There is literally no way for Maria to dodge this attack. No amount of invincibility frames or tight maneuvering will do. If Shaft gets this far in the cycle, you are just dead. So my plan was simple. I just need to kill him fast enough that he never gets to do this attack. The best method I found of stacking damage quickly was to get Shaft above and behind my head, as this is the fastest way to get the dragon sub-weapon to do damage, as it spawns inside of him. This does risk me taking contact damage from Shaft's big ball, but it's what you gotta do to kill this guy quickly. I also took advantage of a minor glitch here, where if I spam the sub-weapon attack quickly, it would let me spawn 2 dragons on the screen at once. Normally the game will try and prevent you from having more than 1 dragon on the screen, but sadly this tech doesn't actually provide as much extra damage as you would think. This is because only 1 dragon at a time is allowed to be damaging Shaft. The only thing this tech lets me do is increase the chance that Shaft gets hit by at least 1 dragon per summon. And since the room is so small, I can't rely on screen scroll manipulation to squeeze out any extra damage as well. So it all comes down to precise movement, near pixels from colliding with Shaft, while summoning as many dragons as I can, hoping, praying that I can do enough damage before the last undodgeable attack. Yes! Let's fucking go! Oh, shit. Holy shit, let's fucking go, dude. Oh, fuck, that was close. That was so close. We almost fucking died. Oh my god. And there it is, the first ever PlayStation Maria world record, with a final time of 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Like I said earlier, I know this run isn't technically perfect, but damn it, in this moment, after hours and hours of failed attempts, it felt damn near perfect to me. I might come back to this character and learn the all bosses route in the future, and if any of you want to see a video on that, please let me know in the comments. But for now, I can rest easy knowing that I completed a pretty damn solid run for a character that I never thought I'd get a chance to play on an actual PlayStation. So with all of the background of the character and my hard-earned showcase done, I guess it's finally time to explain how you can play this hack for yourself. If you want to try this character for yourself, you can check out the video tutorial I recorded on how you can download this mod, linked in the description. But you can also check out the text tutorial made by Zainamo. It does a fantastic job if you just want to follow along with that. And I think this character is a ton of fun, even if very difficult, and I'd love to see more people get their chance to play as Maria. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. And I also want to give a special thanks to everybody who financially supports me over on Patreon. Your support is part of the reason why I'm able to make content creation my full-time job, and I am always eternally grateful. I also want to give a special thanks to my high-tier patrons, including Alex Doe, Minus X, Somajin, Suchioto, and Jokum Palm.